Persona 3. I played it when I was finishing up high school around 2007, and I hopped on to the FES version the following year. Persona 3 Portable came out, I played that, and life moved on. We all grew a little bit older, and so did Persona 3. Fast forward to 2018 and something glorious happened. Persona 3 Dancing Moonlight, or Dancing in Moonlight if you live in the West, was released. Dancing Moonlight was produced by Kazuhisa Wada, who produced and directed Dancing All Night, with Nobuyoshi Miwa directing. This was Miwa's first time directing, with programming being his main area of expertise prior, having worked on Nocturne, DDS, Persona 3, Persona 4, and various other titles with a programming position credit. The game was a grueling process because initially they had planned to reuse assets from Persona 4 Dancing to make both Persona 3 and Persona 5 Dancing, but it became tough to hit their deadline. This was also exacerbated by the weird PS4 version of Persona 4 Dancing, which was an HD remaster, only available with specific bundled purchases of Persona 3 and 5 Dancing. Funny enough, Persona 3 Dancing was already on the table around the time that Persona 4 Dancing was released, but with how popular Atlus anticipated Persona 5 to be, they decided that they would also do a Persona 5 Dancing in tandem. The opening song for Persona 3 Dancing was made with the idea of sounding VIP, because Persona 3 was a long-established series and they wanted to make fans feel nostalgic for the game. This resulted in the song sounding a little bit like a Persona 3 song in a dance-ready style. According to Kazuka, if Persona 3 was Salisbury steak, then that track would be fried shrimp. I don't know what that means. The game design was careful to include easy-to-understand note composition for normal mode to help newcomers understand the basics of the game, while the hard mode was a lot more varied, even using rapid button presses which weren't present in Persona 4 Dancing. This was because the songs had more varied sound. Yosuke Uda, the Atlus business producer, used to be a DJ and prided himself on knowing a lot about music and trends, so they came up with a few lists of artists, those that were very famous, many up-and-comers that were popular online, and categorized them by musical style, and chose the artist to ask to collaborate based on those lists. Daisuke Asakura worked on a remix for The Battle of Everyone's Souls. He said he was very excited to remix a Persona track, and he chose to push the track more in line with his progressive EDM style, and make the tempo something that'd be fun to play in a rhythm game. Tetsuya Kobayashi remixed Mass Destruction, and this was actually the second time he had done so, with the first time being for Persona Music Live Band. He doubled the BPM and combined a hardcore guitar, jazzy piano, and electro synth. The game featured art and design by Soejima and his art team, specifically Akane Kabayashi and Azusa Shimada. Soejima drew illustrations, supervised the costume design and modeling. Kabayashi designed all of the main costumes and some of the secondary costumes, as well as the package design. And Shimada designed costumes and worked alongside Kabayashi on the package design. The package design was made with Persona 4 Dancing in mind, and was meant to be reminiscent of said game. Their costumes came easier for this game by comparison, because they had a better idea of how they would design a rhythm game, and that allowed them more creative freedom. With Persona 4 Dancing, the characters' costumes were based all around the color theming, but for Persona 3 Dancing, the costumes were all based around the ideas of futuristic attire. It's worth noting that while Koromaru is mostly considered the mascot for Persona 3, they opted to use Aegis as the logo because she best represented the themes of Persona 3. The cast's clothes were also designed with the idea that these were clothes the characters would actually choose themselves if given the chance. It's also worth noting the inclusion of cross-dressing outfits were made at the insistence of the P Studio art team. The package illustration actually has a theme, that being the word sweat. This was thought of as a way to differentiate the game from other Persona titles, though Persona 5 Dancing also has the same theming. Apparently, it was very difficult because they wanted to use the sweat to express passion, but it was hard to pin down the concept they wanted, often because early iterations looked like they were soaked in water. In Japan, it was released for the PS4 and for the Vita, but in the West, it was only released on the PS4. There wasn't much difference between the PS4 version and the Vita version, besides the PS4 version running at a higher frame rate. By the way, this, alongside Persona 5 dancing, are the first Persona games to run at 60 frames per second, according to Atlas. The elephant in the room that I haven't really discussed much is Persona 5 dancing, which was released alongside the game, and was originally intended to be a single release of both games bundled together, which they ended up doing anyway, really. But because of how different the P3 and P5 games were, they chose to separate the releases, and also bundle them together later when they sold the games. The game featured 26 songs and was different from the previous Persona 4 dancing in quite a few ways. Instead of the traditional story mode, they actually forego that in lieu of character interactions. There is, however, a little bit of a story. Elizabeth pulls the C's members into the newly renovated Velvet Room, now called Club Velvet, and she did so to get them to dance. It's not really important because the game is largely just fan service and the story is just a means to facilitate the service. But there you go. Let's talk about the gameplay a little bit. The game uses the same design as Persona 4 dancing, with the button prompts flying all around the screen. On the left is the D-pad prompts up, left, and down, and on the right is triangle, circle, and X. There's also a ring that prompts you to press one of the analog sticks. You can actually hit either the left or right one to clear it. And there's lots of variation with long button presses, rapid button presses, and the trickiest being a combo of long button presses with tapping the ring prompts. If you ask me if the game was hard, I'd say it's mostly not. As an avid rhythm game fan, there's not a whole lot of room to increase the difficulty either. Eventually, you can unlock a harder setting for the songs, but I think it shouldn't be something you have to unlock, and that the hard mode is more representative of what a normal mode should be. Another small point of contention for me is the fact that we did not get the game on the Vita, which it definitely feels like a Vita game. While we can use remote play via PS4 to simulate the experience, I find staring at the large screen actually hard, just because of the way we process information. Consider that most rhythm games have the inputs on one side, on the bottom for Guitar Hero, on the left for Taiko no Tatsujin, or on the top for Dance Dance Revolution. This game is asking you to look at everything, everywhere, all at once, which is a tall order, especially for Megaten fans. We can't even read. But again, there's the Japanese Vita release, or alternatively, the VR headset support, which is an experience I haven't tried yet. There's also oddities like the way it seems to rate your score. Basically, it's really unsatisfying just seeing that you passed, instead of getting a graded score. It's also very weird to complete a song and it still considers it a failed run. I think it's very poor design and also super discouraging to barely finish a song and then hear the dreaded declaration that you failed, instead of just failing you when you make too many mistakes, which also happens in this game. Another thing I disliked was some songs have these seemingly great pop group style animated videos instead of the traditional choreography of one character. You get a full guy group and you get a full girl group. But for these, the actual imagery is very distracting. I had a lot of trouble playing it because of all the rapid color changes and scene cuts and everything being so intensely vibrant. I appreciate the idea though as a fun way of engaging in more fan service. The game design has you choosing a track which features a specific character dancing to the song, with customization of the clothes and sometimes a dance partner, which will appear during the fever segments. The fever segments are sections of the song that get activated if you do specific consecutive accurate button presses when special fever prompts appear. These dances are interesting because Atlas hired dancers for each character to choreograph the dances, with their personalities in mind, of course. I find that in comparison to Persona 4 dancing, which did the same thing, and Persona 5 dancing also did that too, I actually quite liked the Persona 3 dancing above all else. I think it better represented the characters, and it also had some variety. You got Junpei dancing comically and Elizabeth being a little quirky, and Aigis being robotic because she's like a robot. There are some odd ones, however, like Ken, who I don't think is accentuated at all personality-wise by his dance. It's a very cutesy dance style, and Ken is not a very cutesy character in my opinion. I think that it almost just comes off like reminiscent of what they did for Nanako, and for Nanako, she is a very cutesy character. Both her and Ken are precocious, but she still has a playful side a lot more than Ken in my opinion, so it's kind of weird. The character models are all updated, and it's to great effect, since I would not enjoy the original Persona 3 models dancing. Actually, maybe I would. That could be like a secondary mode, and like when Dragon Quest did a secondary mode where you can just play it and it would look old school instead of like the updated Yeah, I think that's cool. But the updated character models work well in expressing them, and the subtle animations during the social segments are also pretty good. The partner interactions, or even just the expressions during the dance, is good, all thanks to the updates. I can't believe I haven't mentioned it yet, but the music features many remixes. Some are not my style at all, but work well as a rhythm game, if that makes sense, and some are legitimately great, like Atsushi Kitajo's remix of A Way of Life. Legitimately one of my favorite Persona tracks of all time, whereas I had no strong feeling, I guess, for the original A Way of Life. The game also gets a new song, Our Moment, which while it's a good song, I guess it doesn't really feel like a Persona 3 song, even though they do that thing where they put Burn My Dread in like a reincorporation thing. Some tracks don't work for me because they feel overbaked, like they got overly ambitious and added a lot of different little things and made it feel like it was crowded. For Brand New Days, You Yo Yuppie remix, the metal sound of the rock sections just felt really unbalanced, and the mixing was really off. It sounded like the loud music was somehow underneath the original score, if that makes sense. But I do think the faster tempo was a good idea, I guess. No offense to anyone else involved, but if the remixes said that they were from Ryota Kazuka or Atsushi Kitajo, I was more inclined to try that version out first. I mentioned it earlier, but I do find rhythm games to be a weird beast in that some songs are fun to play and some are fun to hear, and the best are a combination of the two. But if I'm honest, the remixes mostly left me wanting to hear the originals, but the tempo for the original tracks would pretty much make boring gameplay for a rhythm game. The game also fails to deliver that delicious fan service fully because there's many tracks left on the floor. One that I'd like to mention that's like a super niche Persona 3 song is Never Ending Night. The song for the Persona 3 Pachi slot, the Pachi slot being named CR Persona 3, or based on this image, it's P3 Persona 3 CR Persona 3. They could have also included any other tracks that aren't that obscure, but the point still stands. Instead, we just get Burn My Dread literally 4 times. Sorry, I mean Burn My Bread if you have to open the Spotify listing and happen to see that one of them is indeed called Burn My Bread officially. The main game relies on you to play, and success is made by completing the songs to unlock more. Again, there's only like 25 tracks, which is actually really small for a rhythm game. Rock Band 2 had over 70 songs plus DLC. Project Diva F had 38. Just Dance 2 had 48 songs plus DLC tracks, and you get the picture. There was some DLC that was cross-playable for Persona 5 Dancing if you purchased it, which all in all was about 26 additional tracks of DLC music. But that just makes me want to talk about the DLC. The DLC costs over $60 to buy all the additional tracks, and that's not including any of the other fan service, like the cool clothes that you can make the characters wear. These tracks I haven't personally experienced because I'm not spending $60 on this game. Again, but there's a lot of fan service trapped in the DLC. Shinji can only be performed if you buy his DLC song. And there's also one for Labrys and Mr. Persona 4 Arena Ultimax himself, Sho Minazuki. Now, those last two aren't even Persona 3 characters. But anyway, this is also another point of contention for me, and where you see a bit more of the Persona 3 and 5 Dancing were originally going to be one solid release instead of two separate releases that you could also buy bundled. We get accessories that represent the Phantom Thieves, like the picaresque mice, but we don't get a lot of fan service accessories that represent Persona 4 or Persona 2 or Persona 1. There's also that Goro Akechi dance track, the Lavenza and Twins dance track, and yeah, if you were someone who liked Persona 3 and bought Persona 3 Dancing and didn't like Persona 5, you would feel like you were getting ads sent to you because you'd keep getting all this Persona 5 stuff in your face at all times. And again, there's only 26 songs, so eventually you're going to want to play as Goro dancing, aren't you? And it's almost like an invasive weed in your Persona 3 garden, reminding you over and over that Persona 5 exists, while you dance to A Way of Life Atsushi Kirijo remix. There's also a lot of branding, specifically for Denon headphones. These are actual real headphones from a real headphone brand. And I have to ask, why do these exist? I assume there was a collab that was made with the company Denon, and yeah, there was. For Persona 4 Dancing All Night, which this game, alongside Persona 5 Dancing, apparently went into production pretty close to the release of that game. So maybe there was another collab that was just lost because maybe they didn't make enough in sales for Persona 4 Dancing. Who knows? There's also this especially weird laser focus on headphones, with a lot of the key art having people holding their heads with headphones on head. And also, yeah, there's like 20 headphone accessories for each character. Have fun. A weird aside is that the headphones actually look like the ones from the AKG Futaba collab for some reason, which, if you didn't notice, AKG is not Denon. So think of that what you will. And well, if you want the headphones, then there's good news. You can have them. The bad news is you can only get them as a silver necklace. As I said earlier, playing the game unlocks more songs, and in addition, it unlocks accessories for the characters. Unlike Persona 4 Dancing, where you'd buy the outfits and accessories using in-game currency made by playing the game. Also, there's the social segments. These are essentially akin to social link interactions, where a topic is presented alongside some options to express your thoughts. These don't have any effect on anything, though, so feel free to say whatever you want. Besides, unlocking more clothes, as far as I can tell, is pretty much all you can do. You also can't really skip these, so if you're someone who just wants to change up your outfits, you have to fast forward them instead of skipping them, otherwise that just ends the interaction and then you have to click buttons and get back into it. And although the interactions have goals to unlock them, like using different settings or using specific clothes, but I found it a bit hard to do because I didn't like changing the accessories. I didn't like changing the settings. If I liked the clothes I was wearing, I didn't want to wear any new ones. So wearing new ones to get newer new ones is not the thing I was expecting to have to do. I think that in theory, this was a good incentive to keep playing, but it only works if you are a diehard completionist, I guess. The social interactions are also numbered, but can be unlocked separately out of order, and don't seem to really be a series of events anyway, like how a social link builds up. And also, there's not one for Shinji. There's not one for the female protagonist. There's not one for Theodore. It's a shame because the nature of this game is just fan service. And I would have expected a more complete experience in regards to fan service. And by the way, while you could unlock Shinji or Theodore through DLC purchases, you can't get the female protag, so just look at fan-edited pictures, I guess. The game would have plenty of merch, but most of it's not worth noting unless you're a big fan of acrylic goods or towels. I think the biggest things were the dancing Aiga statue. And no, I don't mean that she dances, I just mean that she's the dancing Aiga, the Aiga from Persona 3 Dancing. She's wearing her Persona 3 Dancing Moonlight outfit. Super Groupies also made a slick set of clothes, a slick watch, a slick shirt, a slick waist pouch, a slick pair of pants, and some slick shoes, as well as a slick necklace. Very slippery when wet, I guess. But if you want it now, it's sold out, so sign off in the comments, I guess, if you were able to buy the Persona 3 Dancing Drip. There was also a collab at Pasella Resorts Cafe. If you were in Japan, hooray, you could have seen that, where you could buy themed drinks. They did a collab with Phantasy Star Online too, and there was also the art book that was made for Persona 3 and 5 Dancing that was a bundled art book of both games. Overall, the game improves in a lot of ways over Persona 4 Dancing, and by that I mean I liked the choreography better, and I like Persona 3 more than Persona 4. Oh, but it's at 60 frames per second. Oh my god. It also gets held back even more because of its crazy roster of DLC, its cringe DLC practices, the lack of variety of Persona 3 music. Yeah, even if it's kind of frustrating to hear, even though I'm telling you that it's pretty bad, I still kind of enjoyed my time playing it. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's just the nostalgia of hearing the Persona 3 tracks again, the nostalgia of the meandering social engagements, and the nostalgia of the callbacks and the costumes. Well, actually, not that last stuff because I couldn't buy the DLC. I'm not spending $60.